Now into your swimming career here. So, during college, you were able to go to the Olympic trials after the NCAA championships and qualified for the 2000 Sydney Olympics, and you tied for gold for with Gary Hall Jr. And it's funny because in your book you mentioned the day before you actually told him, "Wouldn't it be great if we just tied for first?" And so, what was going through your mind when you look up at the scoreboard and you see, oh, I tied for him? And what was the feeling of getting your first big victory?
Well, I mean, I was blown away when I saw that we won. Um, I had poor eyesight, so I didn't have any contact lenses and I didn't have any glasses on in the pool. So, like I squinted up at the board and, trying to like sort it out. I simultaneously saw that Gary and I had tied.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there was no like one and then wait, there was two winners. It was like automatic. And then it was just like joy and just surprise and really enjoying that moment. And like, that was so long ago, man. That was 20 years ago. Um, I remember a lot of things, but man, that moment of victory, I assure you, that is fleeting. It is so brief. It is so brief, and it's a joy. And when you're younger, uh, you almost become addicted to this feeling of the people that you care about
Mm-hmm.
being happy, that you feel good. You're like, I did something good. Like my parents are happy, or my friends are like they're smiling. You know,
Yeah.
um, and that first moment of recognition it's so brief. And then you get older, and you don't even necessarily get that in that fleeting moment. Like you don't get to see them, but what you feel is like gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
because without them, it wouldn't have been possible at all,
Yeah.
right? So, 16 years later, winning that same like very small fleeting moment, um, but captured and felt within my own heart in a very different way.
Yeah. And so, you kept on swimming for a couple more years after that, and then you decided to quit swimming in 2003. So walk us
Mm-hmm.
through the moment you decided to quit and what led you to make that decision.
Well, as the story goes, I didn't have any further goals
Mm-hmm.
in swimming. Um, I'd kind of lost the love and the passion, and to a degree, I'd forgotten how um, I developed into who I was, like what made me so good. I'd forgotten what made me so good. It became about the competition, and it became about public facing, so interacting with the public. And I was not nearly confident enough in my own identity, nor comfortable with the moral and ethical compass in which I was still orienting from, because I was still very much in love with my new freedom. And I thought that the public hero that the world deserved was not me. So I wanted to go and do more exploring. I didn't want to be held down by this image in my own head of what I was supposed to be. So there was no moment of deciding to quit. It was a very gradual, just letting things kind of fall apart
Yeah.
until you know I, I was showing up to fewer and fewer practices. Um, and then I'd start showing up to practices, but not even get in. I would just talk with my coach.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't really remember any specific moment where the decision was made. It was just like the decision was a gradual process
Mm.
of, the same way summer turns to fall, turns to winter.
Yeah.
This
And so, what made you decide to get back into swimming? And then, what did the training process to get back into competitive swimming look like for you?
getting back into it was similarly was very like organic and kind of drawn out and a naturally developed. I would say that the first trigger was when I started teaching kids how to swim. And as I was watching these little kids that were like, 5 or 6 years old, I started to remember what it was like for me to be a kid. And these were memories that I thought that had fallen into oblivion, meaning like total forgetfulness, like they didn't exist. But knowing that I used to have that with these kids, and that, that made me curious to want to spend more time in the water. And that led me back to school, to finishing my degree and starting graduate school. And it was in graduate school that I really started thinking about the path that I had left behind in sport, and the path I had taken. And while it was very like, I have no regrets about the path that I took and going into music and becoming an artist. Um, I just wanted to get my health back a little bit. And so really, for me, I kept telling myself I was swimming because I wanted to quit smoking, because
Mm-hmm.
I'd been addicted to smoking cigarettes for a while, and I needed to get off of it. I wanted to get off of it. I've been trying for years, with moderate levels of success and failure. Um, but I just wanted to try. There was one more way I was trying to quit, and it just stuck, right? And now
Yeah.
it's been 10 years since I've had a cigarette. But yeah, and for me, it was just I was just working out. I was making new friends in the water. I didn't go to any competitions for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I was invited to a competition almost a year later from when I started swimming again,
Yeah.
that I thought, it's like, what, let's take this seriously, and just for like half a year,
Yeah.
and we'll see where it goes.
And
So
so,
it was very gradual. There wasn't like any like ironclad, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to let anything get in my way. It wasn't anything like that.
yeah. So the Olympic trials in Omaha 2012, a kid asked you before the race if you were fast, and you said not yet. So you were obviously not very confident heading into those races, and then you went out and won your first two races, and then finished second in the final to become an Olympian again. And Gary Hall Jr. was actually there, and was the one putting the medal around your neck. Just explain the feeling of, I'm an Olympian again, and what was going through your head at the time. And just, I don't even know how to ask the question there, because that's something that not many people get to experience. It's a real comeback story.
Say the question again. I'm sorry.
So what was the feeling going through your head after you? What were you feeling? What was going through your head after you, became an Olympian again? And yeah.
Oh, I can hardly recall. I think it was just, the moment, where Gary, they raised you out of the ground, a platform, and Gary was there with his dad to put the medal on me. And it's like, they're also presenting the two people that are going to be competing for the U.S. in that event. But, it's very ceremonial,
Mhm.
right? It's not like, it's ceremonial, and so you're just like, you don't want to do anything wrong. There's machines going on, and there's a crowd to wave to, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's just I was the real moment of knowing that you're going to the Olympics again is when you touch the wall and you see the result.
Yeah.
And again, it's that fleeting moment, and for Olympic trials, that what that means, that moment is the journey doesn't end.
Yeah.
Like I get to keep going forward, and for almost everybody else, the journey stops. But it's for everybody at some point, the journey stops,
Yeah.
right? I mean, let me bring us into the now. Journey stopped for everybody
Mhm.
a few months ago, right? And everybody's
Yeah.
still, they don't know. Like nobody knows for sure. They're hoping that the Olympics happens next summer. We don't know. A lot of people still aren't. They aren't training. They aren't swimming.
Yeah.
Everything is in flux. So we live in a time of immense uncertainty, and perhaps I'm kind of familiar with that. It doesn't mean I'm like comfortable with it,
Mhm.
um, But at some point, I'll know. Like it's like, well, the journey's either stopping, or I get to definitively go forward, and
Yeah.
that's what the Olympic trials moment is.
Yeah, and so you won gold in Barcelona at, I believe, World Championships, or it was a big event in Barcelona. You
Fukuoka.
in 2013.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so what was the feeling of getting your first major victory since coming back into competitive swimming?
Did we win a relay or something? I don't even remember. Um, I mean, it felt great, right? It was
Yeah,
in 2012. I was like an old guy newcomer,
yeah,
right? There was almost nobody on that team that was swimming back when I retired.
yeah,
So it was like I was around like a whole bunch of new people, and they're all strangers to me. And I spent the next year really getting to know them as I went and continued to do more and more races. And then we were at World Championships together. So, at that point, I had developed relationships and friendships, and I was developing a responsibility for like new people on the national team who may be at their first World Championships. So it felt good to be able to contribute with stories and experiences and to begin forming a little bit of leadership.
yeah. And so you were able to finish off your Olympic career with 2 medals in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. How did you prepare for those races at 36 years old, and what was the key to your success there?
Well, I think the part of the answer to the second question is the first question, right? The key to success is preparation. And how do you prepare? Um, it's like the scientific method. You have to test things and see if they work out, and then you just keep developing it, right? Like every competition that entire year leading up to Olympic trials, I I have it's like almost like a document in my mind of how I
Mm-hmm.
prepare, and then I make changes to it every single time. And even at Olympic trials, I made changes between prelims and semifinals and finals, and at the Olympic Games, the same thing. There was never any like stopping of trying to make something a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So the preparation never settles. The preparation is always about development and moving forward, but knowing that you have to be willing to take a risk, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no sure thing, right? If you want to lean on the sure thing, that's falling back. It's not moving forward.
Yeah, and so when I'm watching swimming, I always wonder, what are you guys thinking about in the water, and what, like, are you able to walk us through those races there in Rio, or is it like you go in the water and you come back out and, you see the result?
Well, I can only speak for myself, and I only do two races, right? The 100 is longer, and that's a totally different beast than the 50. And yeah, you're thinking, you're feeling, and you're going through a lot. You're trying to hold your race strategy in place, but you're also looking at your position amongst other people. You know that there's kind of like a battle to race the person as you're coming home in the 100.
Yeah.
The 50 is a lot different. The 50, you can't look at anybody else. There's no real battle to be had. It's all about just staying focused and just being a laser and doing it right. No
Yeah.
distractions allowed, right? It's you against you for that one lap. Yeah, the 100 is different, and I imagine other people would tell you like they get a lot of energy or a lot of grit by like seeing another person, another swimmer nearby them, and finding extra spirit or heart to vanquish them.
Yeah, so I have one more question before we get into some would you rather's to finish out the interview here. And so I always wonder, what is the Olympic experience like for an Olympian like you?
Well, the Olympic experience, it's different every time, right? A lot of it is the same, but every time there's also a lot of it that's new. So I just it would be comparing the two experiences, right? Like being a rookie, um, in a lot of ways is about demystification, right? Because when I was your age or even younger, I had the Olympic dream, so I kind of was building up in my head what all this meant. And then you actually get there and you see the practical things involved with it, and so you have to learn it, adapt to it. Um, and sometimes, for a lot of athletes, you go to your first Olympics to do that. It's like to demystify and learn what it's like truly about. Then you have to make the commitment. It's like, well, now that I know, can I do another 4 years? Because I know if I do, now that I know what it actually is, 4 years from now, I know what it takes to go there and end up on the podium or to end up and win.
Yeah.
And so that's a difficult decision to make when you're not being propelled by a dream of the unknown, because now you know. And so, yeah, that's just like there's the big difference between being a rookie and being a veteran out there.
Yeah.
And then I guess you begin to, after you become a veteran, anything beyond that is what you think about is supposed to be your legacy. And that's its own kind of like thing. And, as a parent, my legacy is going to be a lot more, I think, in my children than anything I ever did as an athlete.
Yeah.
So, ask your parents about that.
So now to finish off the interview, I have some would you rather questions for you, get to know you a bit more. So my first one I have is, would you rather play video games or board games?
It depends. If I'm by myself, then video games. If I'm with a group of people, board games.
All right. So for traveling, would you rather drive or fly?
Depends on how far.
How about let's see, Toronto to Chicago?
Fly.
Fly. And then my last one here I got, would you prefer listening to rap or country music?
Neither, really. I listen to rock and roll.
Well, thank you for doing this. That's all I got for you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem, Noah. You're on your way to becoming a consummate professional at this. I can tell already.
Thank you for that. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. And, yeah, bye.
See ya.
Peace.